at the beginning of Perek Yud Aleph 11. Now, what we saw in the end of Perek Yud, that Am Yisrael crowned Shaul, but it was very weird. Crowning, say. The ceremony was very weird, without any speech of Shaul. I think people didn't took it seriously. Some of them even said it. What can you do? Such a person, he was too humble for them. They didn't took him seriously. Till what will happen in our perek, and this perek starting with in another area, geographic area. So let's read only the two first psukim. Someone could read the two.
Which?
Perek Yud Aleph.
Did we read the last sentence? Did we read את המשפט האחרון בפרק הקודם? אני לא זוכר אם אמרנו את זה.
So the last sentence in the previous perek. No, Perek Yud Aleph. But the last sentence in Perek Yud said that some people didn't give him a present, mincha, didn't give Shaul a present, and Vayhi kemacharish, he didn't say anything.
It says Vayivzuhu.
Vayivzuhu, disrespect him, and he didn't say anything. Now, when he didn't say anything, you can say it because of his humility, maybe because he's weak. So I think most of the people thought he's very weak, he's very shy. This is not a king. That's what they thought then, till what will happen in our perek. So our perek, a new story. Right? So read only the two first psukim.
Okay. Then Nachash the Amorite came up and encamped against Yevesh Gilad, and all the men of Yevesh said to Nachash, make a league with us, and we will serve thee. And Nachash the Amorite answered him, on this condition I will make a league with you, that I may thrust out all your right eyes, and lay it for a grievance upon all Israel.
Right. So, what's happened in that? First, the geography. We're talking about the east side of Jordan River. In the east side, there are 2.5 tribes, Reuven, Gad, and half of Shevet Menashe, tribe of Menashe. The half of Menashe called usually Gilad. Gilad was one of the sons of Menashe, or the grandsons. When the sons of Menashe, his sons or this family lived in the east side. The other half of Menashe lived in the west bank, in the west side of Jordan, what's called the West Bank. So usually the connection with Am Yisrael was through this half tribe. Now this probably was in purpose. We see in Sefer Yoshua, even in Sefer Bamidbar, when the Reuven and Gad asked for the east side, Moshe didn't like this idea. He didn't like this idea, maybe because it will disconnect them from Am Yisrael. Also Yoshua, in the end of Sefer Yoshua, he was very angry with them because they built an altar. So he thought that they are, again, disconnect to Am Yisrael, even in the religion aspect. So one of the solutions that Moshe gave is to take one tribe, to split them to half. One half will be in the west side, one half will be in the east side. Again, the east side called Gilad. What happened during the history? We don't hear a lot about Reuven and Gad. All over the books from Shoftim and the other books later, we won't hear about them. We hear a lot about Gilad, about the part of Menashe, probably because of this reason, that they have this connection with the west side, even though it's kind of problematic. Second thing is Ammon. Ammon was souther than Gilad. Their neighbors, probably not very nice neighbors. Not very nice neighbors. We heard about them. There is a famous story in Sefer Shoftim when Yiftach have a war against Ammon, and again it happened in the same way, which means when Ammon filled that Am Israel, or not all Am Israel, that Gilad is weak, so they try to take some lands or take something from them, and they didn't know what force Am Israel have. So what happened then? That Yiftach from Gilad find the force, find the power, how to fight against them and beat them. What happened now? They're trying to do it again. What they think, and it's right thought, that they're disconnect from Am Israel. Disconnect, they're away from Am Israel. Am Israel is not united as a nation, and nobody will help them. And then it's written Vayichan Sham, which means they're preparing to a war, Amon, and the people from Gilad, instead of getting into this war, surrender even before it started, and they said, "We will be your slaves." What the king of Ammon said, so let's pull out one eye of you. Why did he do it?
What does it mean? Literally, it means literally?
Yeah.
They did it? Or it means metaphorically?
No, literally.
Oh.
He didn't do it yet, but he said, this is my condition, to do it literally.
Okay, so I just...
Why? Why did he do it? No,
to shame them?
To shame them, or he said even to shame Am Israel. To shame Am Israel. Again, why you want to shame Am Israel? Why you want to do it? Probably in the era of the Tanakh, people did it for a sign that someone is a slave. We have a few examples for that. For example,
the eye? But he's only a good slave if he only has one eye.
It depends what you wanted him to do. No, really, if you have one eye, I think you can see almost the same, like two eyes, except of one thing, that you can see
distance.
What?
Distance.
Depth. Not this. The 3D. The 3D you don't have. Now this I can think you can think about it metaphorically. To see 3D is to see all the aspects, all the big picture. When you have one eye, you can see only what you need to do. For an example, it's a little bit insulting to say it, like to compare it, but with a donkey or a horse. If you want him to work on a field and not go right and left, you put something on his eyes like that. So it's quite the same to take one eye. They did it also. One other story in the Tanakh that people do it. They did it to Shimshon. He took his two eyes. Now again, you can say now he will be a worse slave, but his work was to grain, to work with the grind with millstone. No, to work with millstone, to push millstones. Now for that you don't have to see, or even the opposite. It's better that you won't see. Just hold the millstone and start walking all the time. So this is a kind of to make your slave working only on what you want him to do. So this is the technical reason. But also there is more than that. If you have a sign on his body, which means if a sign on the body that his owner did to him, it shows it's something symbolic that he is the slave and the other one is the owner. Now we have, I think, two halachot from that. One is positive, one is negative. The positive one, that what's called Eved Nirtza. Eved Nirtza, Jewish slave, after 6 years, he is free, getting his freedom. Unless you want to stay, and if you want to stay, and it's probably not a good thing to do, then you will make him a sign here, on the ear, like a piercing. What?
Parashat Mishpatim.
Ken, Parashat Mishpatim. This is our Parashat Shavua. So you make him a sign. This sign is not something that will hurt him or will make any damage, but it's a sign. So this is I said in a positive way, which means when we have to do it. The other example is when we shouldn't do it, is what's called shen ve'ain, which means if you hurt your slave. Now we're talking about non-Jew slave. If you hurt his shen or ain, his teeth or his eyes, according to the halacha, it's not only teeth or eyes; it's every part of the body that won't come back. That how it's called, nezek bilti afich. That
that won't regenerate.
won't regenerate. Any damage that won't regenerate, automatically he is free if you do it. I think it's also showing us something that in Judaism, slave you not own his body. Each person in the world own his own body. What?
That halacha of that say the Rosh Yevarim is only by Nevet Kanani.
Nevet Kanani, right?
But Nevet Kanani we do own his body.
No, we don't. That's what I want to say. Except for one thing, in a way that I'll say what. But I own his work, not his body. Now I think you can say it about every owner and person. Like even today, when you have a boss and an employment, sometimes he owns your time, or he owns your work. When you work, all what you did, it belonged to him. Now also, when I have a slave, even non-Jew, I own his time 24/7. I own all his time, all his property, all his money, all his work. Totally, but not his body, which means I can't do with his body whatever I want. I think this is what symbolizes it. And if I want to make him any damage or even to kill him, I will get punished. I think this is the big difference between slavery in Judaism and slavery in all the history, all the other nations. That the owner could hit his slaves. Okay? So this is the difference. Now again, he wants to take their eyes literally, like we said, or because of technical reasons, or to show they are my slaves. This is a sign that will stay with them forever. So this is his condition. Now let's see what they did. Please read till Pasuk Vav.
Okay. And the elders of Yevesh said to him, give us 7 days respite, that we may send messengers to all the territory of Israel, and then if there be a man to save us, we will come out to thee. Then came a messenger to Gibeah of Shaul, and told the tidings in the eyes of the people. All the people raised their voices and wept, and behold, Shaul came after and heard out of the field. So after the herd, and Shaul said, what ails the people that they weep? And they told him the tidings of the men of Yevesh. And the Spirit of God came upon Shaul. Then he heard those tidings, and his anger burned greatly. And he took a yoke of oxen and cut them up to pieces and sent them throughout all the territory of Israel by the hands of messengers, saying, whoever comes not forth after Shaul and after Shmuel, so shall be done to his oxen. And the fear of the Lord fell on the people, and they came out, and with one consent.
Let's stop in a minute here.
Here? Okay.
Those messengers, did they want to come specifically to Shaul? Want to say it to Shaul, to the king? To ask any help from the king? Probably not. They didn't go to the king. We have two hints, two clues for that. One of them, they didn't say we will go to the king. They say we will go all over Israel. We will go all over. Secondly, Shaul heard about it. Not accidentally, but
after the fact.
No, also while they are talking, he heard about it. It wasn't in purpose that he wanted to go to Shaul, to come to Shaul. Now, this I think it shows something. Even there is another fact that shows more than that. Where was Shaul? In the field. He worked with his cows, with his cows. So, is that a work for a king? Probably not. Which means, if you imagine that they came to the palace of the king, it's absolutely not like that. Probably, according to this description, Shaul came back to his own village, to Givat Shaul, continued to work on the field like nothing happened. I mean, like Perek Yud didn't happen. All this ceremony that they crowned him. it very fits to what we said about the previous story. Nobody seen with this crowning something special, especially not Shaul himself. Now by accident he heard about it. By the way, if they reached to Givat Shaul, they made a long walk that nobody cares. In a minute I will say it's not exactly that nobody cares, but nobody helped them till they reached to Givat Shaul. I say it's not that nobody cares. A lot of people cried. They cried because they understood what is the condition, what happened now. So they cried, and I think it's also happened a lot of time when we see a trouble in Am Yisrael. Also today, we're crying. To cry, it's not helpful to anyone. Right? You have to act, not to cry. But if they don't know how to act, and especially when all of them spread all over Am Yisrael and not organized, each one of them can't do anything, only to cry. Till Shaul said, I will do something, and now he used his force that they crowned him. Which means, I have the force, I have to do something. The power. I have the power. He cut those 2 cows, throw it all over Israel, and said, that's what will happen to each one of you if you won't come to this war. Now, this is something very, very smart to do, because if a person is scared and you want to influence him, you can do it with other scare, with
other fear.
Other fear. It's called ma'azan eima. I don't know how to say
balance of terror.
But it's the balance of terror. And I think some of the leaders have to know it, even today. If people are scared from a terror, and you want to impact them, you need to scare them more, or that the terror, that you will know that you are much more much stronger.
Like Yesh Bechir, you mean?
What?
You mean like Yesh Bechir?
It's good. If you want to talk about politics, I think that specifically this is problematic, because today we have government that could make this as a balance of terror, that could make it, and sometimes they are making it. So we have the system how to do it, but then nobody was organized. Now this is one thing. If we're talking about fear, I will make them fear more than that. Secondly, people think, because we are not organized as a nation, people think in private eyes. And in your private eyes, you won't think about the damage that will happen to Am Yisrael. You think about the damage that will happen to yourself. And he said, each one of you will lose his cows. So that's what they are understanding. And if you're talking about fear, they have to see something visual. When you see part of a cow, you understand. And it's worked. It's worked. And
what was he implying? He was implying that if they didn't do what he said, he would do that to them, or if they didn't do what he said, that Nachash Hamoni would do it to them.
I never thought about the second option. I always thought that he will do it to them.
Yeah. How was he going to do it? If he can't even get them to show up to a battle, how's he going to destroy all the cattle? You don't have an army.
In a minute, I will tell you in a minute why. I didn't thought about the second question. Because what we talked in the beginning of this class, that all the story of Nachash Amoni, it's only in the east side of the Jordan. So maybe they didn't feel this fear. Another reason why they didn't feel this fear. Again, we mentioned it a few times. We didn't read about it yet, but we mentioned that probably in those times the Plishtim ruled all the west side of the Jordan. The Plishtim were there, so because of that, the Ammonim won't come to there. Again, it's very, very hard to accept it because we didn't read it yet, but that all this organization, all this army, is under the Plishtim government. Under the Plishtim control, rule.
It says he got the Ruach of Hashem on him, so that's why he did it. I mean, like Hashem would have been on his side to whatever to get the people that didn't come to the army.
He also
Hashem's like backing.
He also mentioned Shmuel.
He also mentioned Shmuel. He also mentioned Shmuel. Now, how he could do it without an army? The answer is if he go each farm and give this punishment, you don't need big army, because there is no any big army against him. I think this is what we talk about. Organization is something very interesting all over the history. When you don't have the electronics media, and with very very little group, you can control much bigger groups than you if they're not organized. People say it when, for example, like Attila, the Hunis, the Han, or also the Mongols. When they conquered Europe, it was exactly the same. It was a small group, but Europe wasn't organized, so they came to each village, to each city, to each town, and they conquered it. And nobody could stand against them because they wasn't organized. So he can't do it to Am Yisrael, but what he wanted to show here, that we have to be organized. And he succeeded.
So that's how the mafia controls Sicily.
Exactly. This happened a lot of times. I think this is one of the best things that we have central government all over the world. We have central government. It's for that reason, that little groups like that couldn't control. Usually, it's not all the time where it works. But this is what happened here.
I'm a little confused. It says that when he was crowned,
yeah,
it says "Vayelchu imo hachayo."
Right.
So it's like he had an honor guard.
Yeah.
Right.
He had an honor guard. So I don't know.
So he has like a little army.
Yeah. He have a little army. I mean, he can do it. I don't know if this honor guard stays with him. Again, just because of the fact that he went to the field and continued to work in the field. Maybe they are, maybe they are not. But they are not a whole army. But you're right. They can help him with this mission to scare Am Yisrael.
But it does say they went to give us Shaul.
Right.
Right.
No, they went with him. I don't know if they
to
stayed.
Him.
Who? The messengers from
the messengers. So they had a concept that they were going to go to Shaul.
Right. But I suppose they went also to Givat Shaul. Also.
They're going to everywhere.
No, they're going to everywhere. But they said before, Bechol Gvul Israel. We will go all over. Now, how they reached to Givat Shaul, you can say, or it's a coincidence, or they made a very good work and go really all over, so it's including Givat Shaul, or maybe it was on purpose, also because we know that in the Giv'ah, we talked about the Pilegish B'Giv'ah, this story, in the Giv'ah were very good soldiers. Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe they do look for Shaul, but like I said, it's not seems in this story, but maybe yes. Right, so let's read to Pasuk Yud, right? From Pasuk Chet, from 8 to 10.
And when he numbered them in Bezek, the children of Yisrael were 300,000, and the men of Yehuda 30,000. And they said to the messengers that came, "Thus shall you say to the men of Givash Gilad, tomorrow by the time the sun is hot, you shall have help." And the messengers came and reported to the men of Yevash, and they were glad. Therefore the men of Yevash said, "Tomorrow we will come out to you, and we shall do with us all that seems good in your eyes."
Right. So, a few things. First of all, he gathers 330,000 people. This is the amount of people. We can check it if we are checking all the wars, except of one war. But in a minute we'll talk about it. All the wars in Sefer Shoftim, it's much less than that. It's like 10% of that, the amount. Now, if you're talking about 10%, it's probably maybe 1.5 tribe every time. This is a war of a nation, of a whole nation. So this shows us something that Am Yisrael starts to work as a nation because what Shaul did. I think this war shows us in the first time how Am Yisrael work as a nation, and because of that we're starting the era of Melachim. That's what we say in the first shiur that we have. The Sefer Shmuel is we're passing from Shoftim to Melachim because of this fact. It also could tell us if there were such an amount of soldiers, what it tells us something about the book of Shoftim, that most of the wars were just some local people that came to this war. Not like that. Here we know what is the potential of Am Yisrael. Now this is a very nice thing to see, that all of them, which means all Am Yisrael, gathers together for this war, for a tribe that is outside, in the east side, that probably nobody really care about them. All of them coming together to show how we will help them. Yeah.
Just a question. I don't understand these people from the other side. They just came over and said, "Be our slaves and we'll take your eye out." Like, I don't get it.
Well, how it started.
Like, yeah, and yeah, that's one question. Also, with the chopping of the oxen, that's like Pelegish Begiva. They did the same thing. They cut up the lady and they say the same kind of.
Oh, that's what I want to say. I said almost all the wars in Sefer Shoftim, except of one.
Okay.
And this is Pelegish Begiva.
Okay.
Now, Pelegish Begiva, we have also the same amount of people like here.
Oh.
It started in the same way. Started in the same way. Here he cut the cows. There they cut the Pelegish, the woman. We talked about a lot of similarities, like maybe it's exactly the same town. Giv'ah, maybe it's Givat Shaul. We talked about it a few classes ago. That maybe it's the same area, maybe not, but it could be in the same area, the area of Binyamin, on a hill, Giv'ah, that we can compare between them. I think maybe also, or maybe this is the correction, or the tshuva from Pelegish Bagivah. I mean, Pelegish Bagivah, we know what a terrible story is it, and what a bad thing to say about the Giv'ah. And when Shaul said, "Why did you choose me, one person from this town?" Now we understand why. This is the tshuva. The tshuva, you make chazara b'tshuva, the correction about what they did. Now we have this potential, we have this power, this force to fight against. Let's use this power, let's channel it to fight against our enemies. So this story is parallel to the story of Pelegish Bagivah.
The kind of repentance.
Repent is
a tshuva in English.
Is repent, right? So this is the repent.
Word, but it's close.
The tikkun. It's a correction. It's not.
Yeah. It's close.
Right. So repent.
Repentance isn't exactly the right word. I'm trying to think of the word for it.
There is maybe there is no translation to tshuva.
Corrective action.
Corrective action.
But the problem with the Pelegish Giba, that was because the tribe didn't judge themselves, right? The tribe of Binyamin should have judged their own people, and they refused to judge their own people.
Right. Or
that's what.
Or Shevet Binyamin, instead of judge the Giv'ah or those persons, just cover them.
Yeah.
Just cover them. And here again, this is I will use the word tshuva. I think the word tshuva is the best here. As a tshuva, instead of to say we're covering the sinners and we're against all Am Yisrael, here we are for Am Yisrael, even for the people that are very far from us. And because of that, I think this is the tshuva for Pelegish Bagivah.
See, there's a comment here that the eyes that Nachash was talking about was the Sanhedrin, was the judges. He was saying that they're not important. They're not important to you.
Right. So this is if we
more
read
than just a literal. It was a metaphor for the eyes of the people. It's the Sanhedrin, the judges.
Right. So this, if we read this condition in a metaphorical way, so we said I prefer to read the Tanakh usually in a literal way when we can do it, unless it's something that are not reasonable.
But what I'm saying is that's the tshuva, that because in the Givat Pelegish, the Sanhedrin didn't act properly. Now the tshuva is they're going to act properly.
Right. So I don't know if it's the Sanhedrin or the leadership. The leadership that here is Shaul. Now it's answering another question. If you remember, we mentioned it also. We mentioned before of the story of Pelegish Bagiva, that probably it's not written by order. Why it's not written by order? Because in the middle of Pelegish Bagiva, in the middle of the story, we find Pinchas ben Elazar. Now two options: or he lived more than 300 years, Pinchas, and he survived all over the era of Yoshua and Shoftim, and appear again in the end of Sefer Shoftim. This is one option. By the way, this is maybe the base to the Midrash that Pinchas is Eliyahu Navi, because if he had 300 years, let's add another 200, and maybe till today. So it's this is maybe the base for the Midrash. Other explanation of the commentators that it's not written by order, which means Pelegish Bagiva, this story happened at the beginning of the Shoftim era, because of this fact of Pinchas. Now, if it's happened on the beginning, this is the question that we always ask when something in the Tanakh is not by order. Why they change the order? Why it's written in the end? And the answer here, now we understand that the answer is that the story of Pelegish Bagiva, it's a kind of introduction to our book. It's a kind of introduction because of few things. First of all, it shows why we have to have a kingdom, why we have to have one leadership. Secondly, we understand all the story about Shaul. This background, this introduction explains us what's so impressive, what is so unique with Shaul leadership, because of this background. Again, another thing, that Am Yisrael could gather everybody together. They could make it, even though all the other stories they didn't make it. There was only 10% of this amount. They could do it for bad things in Pelegish Bagiva, so they could do it also for good things in our story. So this is the introduction. Right? What they said now, what we read in Pasuk Yud, they said tomorrow, Kechom HaShemesh, which means in the midday. In the midday we will come. Why in the midday? Because it takes time. It takes time to walk all this way, so we just have to earn some time for that. So Anshe Yavesh Gilad, the people from Yavesh Gilad, said to the king of Ammon, alright, tomorrow we will come to be your slaves. Tomorrow we will come and you can do whatever you want. While they will come and the Ammonites won't prepare to a war, then Shaul with all this army will attack them. Right? So let's read Yud Aleph to Yud Gimel. The three psukim. Different order?
Okay. And the Lord said to
11.
Sorry, wrong. Okay, sorry. And it was so on the morrow that Shaul put the people in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the camp in the morning watch and smote the Ammon until the heat of the day, and those that remained were scattered, so that no 2 of them were left together. And the people said to Shmuel, who is he that said, shall Shaul reign over us? Bring the man that we may put him to death. And Shaul said, there shall not a man be put to death this day, for today the Lord has wrought salvation on Israel.
Right. A few things you can see about this description. First of all the war is one pasuk. All the war is one pasuk, but this pasuk shows us some things. There are 3 heads, which mean they're organized. They're organized. This is something important to see in Am Yisrael. They're organized. They came at the morning, B'ashmoret haboker, which means the first light in the morning. They finished the war till the middle of the day. If they came in the morning, so when did they walk? All night. They walk all night. This is a surprise, because in those days it was very, very difficult to walk all night. This is it's not a secret anymore, but this is what the IDF do. Even today, most of the battles we're trying to do it during night, because especially if you are attacking, the night is for you. Is helpful. Is more helpful for you than the people that defending. Secondly, today it's because of our technology. All the technology that you can. The
night vision.
Night vision. That our night vision is better than the.
Night vision.
Yeah. Our night vision is better than the enemies. I don't know if it's today. It was when I were in the army. I don't know if today it's still like that. I mean, today it's not so sophisticated. Everybody have night vision.
You can buy it in the store.
Yeah.
You can buy it in the store.
In dollar store?
No,
Then it's worth it. But more than that, in those days when you don't have night vision, night vision, it's surprising when this such a big army working all night. Now it's happened a few times in the Tanakh, like Yoshua against the Ai in the Second War. It's happened a few times, but to attack first thing in the morning, it's very very good thing to do. Even today, I remember when you, as a difference, we talk about it that the most dangerous hour in the day is the first light in the morning. There is some reason to that. So he did it and beat them till midday. Second thing, after he beat them, they ran away. The expression is that there wasn't two people that left together. They spread so much that each one of them ran away alone. I think it's also something very symbolic, that they are so spread, nobody together. Because why we succeeded to beat them? Because we were together. And this is a midah keneged midah. Because we were together, we beat them, and in the end, after we beat them, some of the people said, "Let's go to those people in the end of Perek Yud, those people that disrespect Shaul. Let's kill them now." Which means now we know who is Shaul. Now we know that he has the power. Now we know how tough he is, what a leader he is. Let's kill them. I think it shows us what was the method in those days, method of the kings. You always kill your opposition. Always kill your opposition. If you want to see it, you can see it even today. In some places, some countries, we have it even today. This is the way. I think it's a very practical things to do. Not in democratic state, but it's very practical, not so moral. Because of that, Shaul said, "I have a new idea. Let's don't kill him." Now, why is it so new? Like we said when we learned Perek Chet, this is the big difference between the kingdom of Am Yisrael and the non-Jews kingdoms. So he said, we have a moral kingdom. Let's don't do it. And another thing that he said, that this victory is because of God. It's not because of me. He wasn't arrogant. He could take all the pride for himself, and he deserved it maybe. But he gave all this pride, all the pride of victory to God. And I think this shows us what is a real Israeli kingdom. Not arrogant, not believing God, not with killing your opposition. This is the real kingdom, not like the non-Jews. And it was a very, very good choice to choose Shaul. What will happen later, we will see later. But at the beginning, it was a very, very good choice. And then
you see now that he stands up to the nation also. He doesn't go along with everything they say.
Right.
They want to kill. He does, which is sort of contrasts with what happens with Agag when he blames the nation for what he did. He said he had to appease the nation. Here he doesn't seem to need to appease anybody.
Right. He lead the nation instead of the opposite. So the opposite. By the way, there are a lot of leaders. I think mostly today that the nation lead them and then they don't lead the nation. They do it especially with skarim. How do you say seker?
Polls.
What? Polls. That you check what the statistically what.
Surveys.
Yeah, like surveys or polls to check what people want to do, and then you do what they want to do. There is a amazing metaphor that Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Israel Misalan said. There is a pasuk, Pnei Ador kifnei hakelev. Yeah? The face of the generation is like the face of a dog.
The dog looks back. A dog, when he walks, always looks back at the owner.
So Pnei, also in Hebrew, Pnei Hador, which means sometimes the face of the generation is the king. The king is like a dog, because what you said.
The dog walks, always looks back at the owner. You never
Right.
you see it. I know that expression. I see a dog walking, and it's like funny, and you see them looking back, and it reminds me of that expression.
So it seems to be that the dog is leading the owner, because he walking in front of the owner, but when he reaches to a junction, he look on the owner. So the leaders sometimes like the dog. Like you said, Shaul is exactly the opposite. He is the leader. Let's see quickly the two last psukim of the perek.
Which one? 14?
14 and 15.
And then said Shmuel to the people, "Come, let us go to Gilgal and renew the kingdom there." And all the people went to Gilgal, and there they made Shaul king before the Lord in Gilgal, and there they made sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord, and there Shaul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly.
All right, so they renew the kingdom, renew the crowning of Shaul. Why they have to renew it? It just shows that the previous crowning wasn't so serious. Now they're crowning again. Now all Am Israel is happy because they know what king they have, and even Shaul himself is happy because he saw that he can be a king and a humble king. He can be a humble king to do what he wants to do, what's important to do, and he can take this kingdom to something positively, not like we saw all the other pakim that Shmuel and even God were very worried from this kingdom. What will happen with that?
Can I say something? That the people went to Shmuel to ask them what to do with the men, right? It doesn't say Shmuel answered them.
Which men?
It says, but
right.
They went to Shmuel to ask him about what they should do with the men, and Shaul overrode whatever Shmuel was going to say.
Right.
That's not a good idea.
No, Shmuel didn't say anything yet. They asked Shmuel, but Shaul said before Shmuel would say something, Shaul said, we won't kill anyone.
Right. But you'll find later on that he's going to contradict Shmuel.
So later it will be something negative.
He's got a problem. He's got a problem that he doesn't want Shmuel to answer.
Right. Later it will be Later it will be something problematic. Here it's something positive, but maybe you're right that even in the positive thing we can see the beginning of this characteristic.
Because you can bet that Shmuel would have said, "Kill them. They have no right to."
I'm not sure that Shmuel would have said it.
To go against the king. They have no right. He was a defender of the king.
Yes, but
right?
I'm not sure that Shmuel would have said, "Kill them." This we can't. Maybe after 120 we'll ask Shmuel what he would have said, but
but who's supposed to make the decision here? In other words, why have a king if you're going to do what Shmuel says? Like if you have a spiritual leader and you have a king, who makes the decision? There's supposed to be a sort of separate. Why have a king at all if you're going to go to Shmuel, right?
Right.
So maybe what Shaul did was correct. He said, "Listen, I'm the king. It's my decision."
I think in our perek it seems it's written as a positive thing. A positive thing. Maybe you're right that it shows something about his personality. Maybe again, this personality you can take it to a positive thing, you can take it to a negative things. Here it's positive. In perek Yud Gimel it will be a negative thing. Right?